Hi there! So, if you clicked on this video, maybe you are trying to set the same goal as me. A week ago, I decided that I wanted to go from lifelong night owl to early bird. And I used a lot of these same kind of videos to help me prepare on what to do and how to make the switch, because it's not always easy. But I also wanted to make a video on what I found for me that personally helps and makes it easier for me to go from staying up till 1 a.m. to getting up at 6:30 a.m. So this is 5 tips on how to go from night owl to early bird, and let's dive right in. So tip number 1, I think, is the most important tip of them all, and it's one that you really have to answer before I can give you the next 4 steps, and that is know your why. If you just say, I want to get up at 6, I'm just going to use 6:30 as an example because that's the time I get up. If you just say, I want to get up at 6:30 because I want to get up at 6:30, and you don't have an actual why behind that, it's going to be really hard to keep going with the habit, because your sleepy brain is going to say, oh, let's just go back to sleep. Because when your alarm goes off in the morning, you are not a rational thinking person. You're a half asleep zombie. So if you don't have a why that you already know in advance, it's going to be really hard to get up when that alarm rings. So my why is I wanted more time in the morning to read my Bible. I needed quiet time. I was falling behind on something I was trying to read. And it was just not fitting into my day. And now those hours before sunrise, that hour before sunrise gives me that. And also because I'm currently training for a 5K, and again, I was having trouble finding time where to fit in my workout and when to do my walk or run for the day. And now it's a lot easier because, hey, I just do it pretty much immediately after my Bible reading. I get out and I go and exercise and train for my 5K, and then I have 2 things done, and it's like only 8:30 in the morning. Here is tip number 2, and that is, it starts the night before. And I know you hate hearing this because I did too, and I still kind of do hate this, but I've also learned to like it in a way. The reality is, if you don't have a good amount of sleep, then this one or the other is going to give. And more than likely, since you just started becoming an early bird, that's the side that's going to give, and you're going to go back to being a night owl. So with that said, forewarning, the first night or morning that you get up, you're probably not going to get a lot of sleep, because you are so used to going to bed at this later time for however long you've been doing it. For me, it was like 2 a.m. that you can go to bed at 10 a.m. and have all the good intentions in the world, but you're probably going to be staring at the ceiling and not get tired until your normal time. But here's the good news on the side of that. If you get up early and persist with getting up that first morning when you probably are running on 4 or 5 hours of sleep, that next night you are going to be tired at an earlier time. And I have been able to work myself back from 2 a.m. to about 11 to 11:30. Because I get up at 6:30, I would like to eventually get back to 10 or 10:30. But 11:30, 11 is where I'm at right now, which is fine. You're probably going to have to tailor your bedtime back slowly. But every day, the more you get up at the same consistent time, the earlier you're going to get tired, and the earlier it's going to be to go to bed, because that is really important. And if you want to commit to being an early bird, then you have to make sure that you're still getting a good 8 hours of sleep and not going through your days sleep deprived. So step number 3 is kind of 2 things combined into one, and the first one I just want to talk on is the alarm. So when I first started doing this, I took my alarm and I put it on the other side of the room, because when you wake up in the morning and you're all foggy brained and warm in your comforters, what's going to be your natural inclination? To try to reach over and snooze. I used to be the world's worst snoozer. I think my record was I snoozed for like 3 hours once. And yeah, it was bad. So I was like, okay, there is no way I'm going to do this if I don't, put my alarm out of arm's reach. So for the first couple of nights while you're getting used to this, put your alarm where you can't just reach over from bed and press snooze, because then you're just going to snooze. And the other thing is, try and get up on the first alarm. It got so bad to me where a point where I would put my alarm across the room, press snooze, and go back to bed. Like, try to get up on the first alarm. And the way I did this was I set one alarm. I had one alarm set, and that was it. Like, no 6:30, 6:35, 6:40 kind of thing. It was 6:30, and that was it. And so I knew I need to get up on this alarm. And really, you just have to force yourself to jump out of bed. And then that ties into my next thing, which is instant gratification. So you have to come up with something for your foggy brain, zombie brain in the morning to have instant gratification and happiness on why you're jumping out of bed before the sun is up. And for me, that's moseying my way over to the kitchen and starting some coffee. And while I'm starting coffee, I'll open the blinds. And so when the sunrise starts coming up, I'll be able to see that. And that's something I love. So those are my two things that are instant gratification for me. My coffee and the sunrise. And that's a good thing to have in mind for you in the morning, because you can have your goals and you have your why, which is important for keeping this long term and continuing with it. But you also need to have that instant gratification in the morning for your brain to click and realize getting up means coffee, or getting up means seeing the sunrise, or whatever it may be for you. Getting up means blank. And so you have that instant thing that makes you happy in the morning, and then when you're a little bit more awake, you can focus on your long-term why and goals and why you're doing this. Tip number 4 is try to get outside and exercise and get some sunlight if possible. I mean, even if it is just a 10-minute walk, I have noticed most days I get out and exercise, like I said, because I'm training for a 5K, but if you get out and get in the sunlight, especially during sunrise for me, it wakes me up, and it'll wake you up a little bit because you're getting your body back on circadian rhythm of light means wake up, and getting rid of that melatonin in your system, and just going out and getting sunrise and just moving will wake me up quite a bit. So if possible, if you can't even get outside, just try to move. Don't be static. Don't get up, make coffee, and then sit for 2 hours. And I've done that. This past week I have done that, and I have noticed the days where I sit in a chair and get all comfy again, I am much more likely to fall back asleep or be unproductive with my morning, which kind of defeats the whole purpose, versus when I get up and force myself to move, I kind of kickstart my day and get myself into the rhythm of what to do next and get things checked off the list. So in the morning, if you can, try to exercise, get out even on the porch, get some sun, just try to walk around a little bit. Just try not to be static and move until and move around and wake yourself up until you know that you're fully awake and you've checked things off your list. Then it's okay to sit and rest, but try and move and really wake yourself up and wake your body up by not getting all comfy on the couch after you just got out of bed. And the last tip I have for you guys is persist. Tip number 5. And this one right now is the one that I need to hear and hopefully will help you. That is, maybe you've tried doing this before, and I know I have countless times of getting up early and it just never seems to work. And that's where persist comes in. And that is, it's going to get harder before it gets easier. I'm experiencing this right now. The first couple of days you decide you're gonna get up early and try this thing all over again, you're so full of adrenaline, you're so excited about this new goal that it's actually easier to get up, I've found, on the first week of doing this than the second week, which is what I'm in now. Because the second week, the excitement's worn off, it kind of becomes more of this grind of trying to make this a habit than this adrenaline-filled morning of, yes, I'm up before the sun, look at me, I'm doing this. So the first week may seem really easy, and you may think, hey, this is gonna be a piece of cake. It's gonna be easier than I thought it was going to be. And then the second week will hit you like a sledgehammer and be like, hey, remember how you used to be a night owl? Yeah, we should go back to that. So that's where persist comes in. Keep going. You know the old saying, it takes 21 days to make a habit, and it takes a lot less to break a new habit, let me tell you. So I'm gonna pull up on my phone, and this is something that kind of goes back to almost the instant gratification, but also just something that you can check off and a visual reminder of what you are doing. So I have a little thing on my phone, just underneath the thing that says 21 days of work to win. And I can check it off. And I've written myself notes on day 7 and day 10 and day, you know, different days, different things, until it gets all the way to 21, because 21 days to make a habit. So I know that every morning I can just click that little bubble and see that I did that. And then when it gets harder, I can remind myself to go back to that checklist and click it off. And also I've started something called a positive morning journal, where the day before, so I started this yesterday, I will write down what good things came out of me getting up early versus getting up later. And that's things like seeing the sunrise, walking my dog yesterday before it started raining, and just simple little things. And then I'll put some quotes and a little note to myself, and I'll read that right before I go to bed. So that is in my mind when my alarm goes off in the morning and I want to throw my phone across the room. So the last and final tip is just persist, go with it, at least try and stick it out for 3 weeks, 21 days to make a habit, and just try to keep going and try to push yourself to get up. And there will be mistakes. It's not going to be perfect. A couple of days ago, I slept until 10:30. You're gonna have mistakes, and you gotta accept that and not say, just because I made a mistake, now I'm going to just give up, because what's the point? I've already slept in and ruined the whole thing. No, you just keep going. You keep, whether you sleep in or get up early, if this is something you really wanna do, the next day, get up early and start over, and keep going and keep persisting until it gets easier. So those are my 5 tips on how to go from being a night owl to an early bird. I hope they were able to help you, or at least, I don't know, entertain you. But that's just what I found that has helped me personally. And if you guys are starting out trying to become early birds, I give props to you, because it's not easy. But it's something that's definitely worth it once you're able to. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and here's to rising early.